right, let's dive deep into networking today. We're looking at it from a different angle, all thanks to one source. It's a transcript of a talk. And, well, it kind of flips the script on how we think about building connections. It's not just about handing out business cards. It's about building relationships that really matter.
It is, yeah. What's really interesting about this is that it goes beyond just the superficial stuff, the transactional stuff that we usually associate with networking. It really zeroes in on the whole human connection thing.
Okay, so the speaker starts with this really cool analogy, comparing networking to a set of interlocking gears. So it's not about just giving one gear like a quick spin and expecting instant results.
Exactly. The speaker is really emphasizing the importance of time and effort. It's like, you have to understand how each connection fits into the bigger picture.
And this is where I think the idea of fluidity comes in, which the speaker talks about a lot. Honestly, at first I was a little confused about what they meant by that.
Yeah, fluidity in this sense, I think, refers to being able to connect with people authentically, to build rapport that goes beyond just swapping contact info.
Ah, okay. So it's about the quality of the connections, not just the quantity.
Exactly. And to really drive this point home, the speaker shares this anecdote about seeing people at an event. Just randomly, they started forming business partnerships because they happened to be in the same room and open to connecting.
It's funny how sometimes the best opportunities come when you least expect them.
Exactly. And that ties into another point that stood out to me, this 85% rule. The speaker claims that a whopping 85% of our results in life actually come from the people we connect with.
Wow, 85%, that's a big number. So it really underscores how vital our networks are to success.
Absolutely. It emphasizes how much our networks shape our success, even if those connections don't seem directly related to what we're doing right now.
I see. So it's not just about who you know, but who knows you and how those connections can impact your life in so many ways.
Exactly. Now, the speaker also shared their personal story about how they changed their perspective on networking by starting small. They committed to spending a bit of money each month on things like dinners with interesting people.
So they treated networking as an investment.
Yes. As the speaker's understanding of networking grew, their investment grew with it. And eventually, that led to some amazing opportunities.
That brings us to what the speaker calls the 5 levels of networking. It's a practical framework for building a network that can seriously elevate your life.
It all starts with level 1, be known. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be famous or anything. It just means that in any room, there should be at least one person who can vouch for you.
Ah, so it's about having that initial validation that opens doors for deeper connections.
Yes. Then we move on to level 2, the path. It's about choosing the 5 people you want to be closest to, your mentors, your peers, those who really push you to be better.
But how do you choose those 5 wisely? That feels like a really important decision.
Well, the speaker believes that these people's qualities will directly influence your own. So you've got to surround yourself with people who embody the values and skills you want to develop.
Okay, that makes sense. You're shaping your own growth by choosing your closest connections. Then what?
Then we have level 3, bridges. These are your connectors to different worlds. They are the 15 or so people from diverse fields who can link you to opportunities you might never find on your own.
So it's about stepping outside your usual circles and being open to unexpected connections.
Exactly. The speaker really emphasizes how these connections often come from the most surprising places. You just never know.
Okay, we've got be known, the path, and bridges. What's next on this network building roadmap?
Level 4 is where things get interesting. It's called ramps. And these are the people with big platforms who can really amplify your message. Think influencers, thought leaders, people with a significant following.
Ah, so they're like your megaphone to a wider audience.
So?
But is there a catch?
Well, the speaker warns against chasing the spotlight without being ready. You need to have something valuable to offer when all those new eyes are on you.
That makes sense. So it's not about just getting in front of a large audience. It's about being prepared to deliver value when you have that opportunity.
Right. And finally, we reach level 5, the top of the pyramid, platforms.
Platforms. This sounds intriguing. What does that mean?
Platforms are about connecting with the people who lead entire ecosystems. These are the big players, the visionaries shaping entire industries.
Wow, that sounds a bit intimidating. How do you even start connecting with people at that level?
Well, the speaker believes that while these connections might seem out of reach at first, building your own value will naturally draw their attention.
It's like you attract what you are, not what you chase.
Exactly. It's a much more empowering approach. It's about focusing on your own growth and becoming someone worthy of their notice.
I really like that. It shifts the focus from external validation to internal growth, leading to more genuine and fulfilling connections.
Now, before we move on, I think it's crucial to highlight something the speaker mentioned about the foundation of any successful network: shared values.
That's a great point. It's not just about what people can do for you. It's about finding those connections based on things you have in common, a shared vision, or maybe a set of core beliefs that you both really believe in.
Exactly. The speaker tells a story about connecting with other entrepreneurs in their community, and it was those shared values that really helped them grow. They supported each other's ventures and created this incredible ecosystem of mutual trust and shared goals.
It's like finding your tribe, those people who get you and support you along the way.
Exactly. But as the speaker reminds us, building this type of network isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process, a way of life, really.
Right. It's about making a consistent effort, showing up for your network, and making connection a regular part of your life.
That's right. It's like any skill you want to master. Consistency is key. You can't just expect results from sporadic effort.
But I think a lot of people struggle with that. Life gets busy, and it's hard to find the time to constantly be networking.
Well, the speaker actually addresses that and reminds us that it's okay to start small. Remember that initial investment we talked about earlier? They started by just dedicating a little time and resources each month to networking, like having dinner with interesting people.
Right, so it's about finding what you can manage and gradually building from there.
Exactly. And it's not just about money. It's about investing your time, your energy, and your attention, making an effort to build meaningful connections.
So it's not about going to every event or trying to connect with every single person you meet. It's about being intentional and focusing on building relationships with people who truly resonate with you.
Exactly. Now, another point the speaker makes is about the importance of serving others. They say serve first, which means approaching networking with a mindset of giving, not just taking.
I like that. It's about shifting from a what can I get mentality to a how can I contribute approach.
Right. And they give a great example of how this played out in their own life. They talk about connecting with someone who later became a key player in one of their businesses. It wasn't some strategic move. It just started as a genuine friendship.
That's awesome. And it just goes to show that you never know where a genuine connection might lead.
Exactly. The speaker also talks about the importance of shared values when building your network. They believe the strongest connections aren't just based on what people can do for you, but on deeper commonalities like beliefs, passions, dreams for the future.
Right. It's about finding your people, your tribe, those who understand and support your vision.
Exactly. It's about building a supportive ecosystem where everyone's aligned and committed to helping each other succeed. Now, this might sound a bit counterintuitive, but the speaker also stresses the importance of making your value known.
Wait, what do you mean? Like being more assertive or promoting yourself?
It's not about being boastful, but about confidently sharing your skills and experience. Make sure the right people know what you bring to the table.
So it's about letting your network know what you're capable of.
Exactly. And they even offer some advice on how to do this well. For instance, they recommend having someone else introduce you and highlight your accomplishments.
So having someone vouch for you, that makes sense.
Right. Now, remember those ramps? We talked about those folks with big platforms. The speaker really stresses being prepared when connecting with them. You got to be ready for that level of exposure.
So it's not just about chasing the spotlight. It's about being ready to deliver when the spotlight finds you.
Exactly. And the speaker also highlights the importance of being mindful of the environments you put yourself in. They talk about how their life changed for the better when they started spending more time in places where they could connect with people who were already living the life they wanted.
So surrounding yourself with people who are a few steps ahead of you.
Precisely. It changes your perspective and shows you what's possible. The speaker even tells a story about how they used to listen in on conversations between wealthy people at their old job. It was that exposure to a different world that sparked a desire for more.
That's so interesting. It shows how powerful it can be to just be around people who are living the life you aspire to.
The speaker also emphasizes the importance of mindset when it comes to attracting the right connections. You need to cultivate a mindset of abundance and believe you are worthy of connecting with those who are further along in their journey.
I think that's a huge hurdle for a lot of people, those limiting beliefs that hold us back from reaching out to those we admire.
It's about overcoming those beliefs and recognizing that you have something to offer, even if you're not exactly where you want to be yet. They actually share a story about how they used to struggle with feeling inadequate around wealthy people, but they realized they had unique perspectives and experiences that were valuable too.
So it's about finding your own value and bringing that to the table.
Now, I want to be clear. The speaker isn't advocating for manipulation or forcing connections. They emphasize approaching networking with integrity and authenticity.
Right, so no playing games, just genuine connection.
Absolutely. And that brings us to one of the speaker's most important messages: the significance of education continuata, which means continuous learning and personal growth. They believe the more you invest in yourself, the more valuable you become to your network.
So like a cycle, right?
Yeah.
The more you learn, the more you have to offer, and the more you attract valuable connections.
Exactly. They even created a lifetime mentorship program where people pay once and have access to all their current and future courses and materials.
Wow, that's really putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to the power of lifelong learning.
Right. This conversation has me thinking about legacy.
Legacy, how so?
Well, the speaker talks about their desire to make a positive impact, not just build businesses. They want to empower others and leave a positive mark.
It's about leaving the world a better place than you found it. And I think networking can be a powerful tool for that.
Exactly. The connections we make, the support we give it, all contributes to the legacy we leave behind.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation so far. What stands out to you the most?
I'm really struck by the speaker's emphasis on intentionality. It's not about randomly collecting business cards. It's about being deliberate, focusing on relationships that matter, and genuinely wanting to contribute to the well-being of others.
I totally agree. It's about showing up authentically and wanting to connect on a deeper level. And I think that's the perfect lead-in to the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some of the speaker's personal anecdotes and reflections on the power of networking.
I'm excited to hear those. They sound like they'll be full of great insights and practical advice. Welcome back to our deep dive. We were talking about how important genuine connections and shared values are, but how do we actually, put these ideas into practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, the speaker gives a lot of practical tips. They really stress the importance of being consistent. They actually use the word frequency, like consistently putting in the effort to nurture those relationships.
Right. It can't just be a one-time thing. You got to keep showing up for your network. It's like any skill. If you want to be good at it, you got to practice regularly.
Totally. But I can see how that might feel kind of overwhelming to some people. Life gets busy. How do we find the time to fit networking into our already packed schedules?
Well, the speaker acknowledges that. They remind us to start small. Remember that investment we were talking about? They began by setting aside just a small amount of time and money each month, just to connect with interesting people.
And as their understanding of networking grew, so did their investment in it.
Precisely. And it doesn't have to be all about money. It's more about investing your time, energy, and attention, making a conscious effort to build those relationships.
So it's not about going to every single event or trying to connect with everyone you meet. It's about being more strategic with your time and energy, focusing on those relationships that really matter.
Exactly. Now, another thing the speaker really emphasizes is the power of serving others. They have this whole serve first philosophy. It's about approaching networking with a giving mindset, not just focusing on what you can get out of it.
I love that. Shifting from a me focus to a we focus.
Right. And they share some really cool stories about how this has worked in their own life. Like, they talk about connecting with someone who ended up playing a crucial role in one of their businesses. But it all started with a genuine friendship, nothing strategic about it.
Wow. So you never know what might come from a genuine connection.
Exactly. And they also talk a lot about the importance of shared values. They say the strongest connections aren't built on just, transactional stuff. They're built on deeper things like shared beliefs, passions, hopes for the future, things like that.
Right. It's about finding your people, the ones who really get you and what you're about.
Exactly. It's like building a supportive community where everyone is on the same page and wants to help each other thrive. Okay, now this next part might seem a little counterintuitive, but the speaker talks about the importance of making your value known.
Wait, what does that mean? Like bragging about yourself?
Not exactly. It's not about being arrogant, but it is about being confident about your skills and what you can offer. Make sure the right people know what you bring to the table.
Ah, I see. So letting your network know what you're capable of.
Exactly. And they even have some tactical advice for this. For instance, they recommend having someone else introduce you and highlight your accomplishments.
That makes sense. Having someone else vouch for you carries more weight.
Right. Now remember the ramps we talked about, those people with big platforms. The speaker really stresses the importance of being prepared when you connect with them.
Right. You want to make sure you're ready to take advantage of that exposure.
Exactly. And the speaker also talks about the importance of being intentional about the environments you put yourself in. Like, they talk about how their life changed when they started spending time in places where they could connect with people who were already living the kind of life they wanted.
So surrounding yourself with people who are already where you want to be.
Exactly. It can really shift your perspective and show you what's possible. They even have a story about how they used to listen in on conversations between wealthy people at their old job. Just that exposure to a different world sparked a desire for something more.
That's fascinating. It shows how powerful it can be to just be around people who are living the life you aspire to.
Right. The speaker also talks about the importance of mindset when it comes to attracting the right connections. They say you have to cultivate a mindset of abundance and believe you are worthy of connecting with people who are, like, further along in their journey than you are.
I think that's such a big one.
Hmm.
A lot of people struggle with feeling like they're not good enough or worthy of connecting with certain people.
Totally. It's about overcoming those limiting beliefs and realizing that you have something unique to offer, even if you're not exactly where you want to be yet. They share a story about how they used to struggle with feeling inadequate around wealthy people, but then they realized they had unique perspectives and experiences that were valuable too.
So it's about recognizing your own value and being confident in what you bring to the table.
Exactly. Now, it's important to clarify that the speaker is not saying you should manipulate people or try to force connections. They're all about approaching networking with integrity and authenticity.
Right, so no playing games, just being genuine.
Exactly. And that leads to one of their most powerful messages, the idea of education continuata. It means, like, always be learning and growing. They believe the more you invest in yourself, the more valuable you become to your network.
It's a cycle. The more you learn, the more you have to offer, and the more you attract valuable connections.
Exactly. They actually put this into practice by creating a lifetime mentorship program. People pay once and they have access to all their current and future courses.
That's amazing. They're really walking the walk when it comes to the power of lifelong learning.
Right. You know, all this talk about networking is making me think about legacy.
Legacy, how so?
Well, the speaker talks about wanting to make a positive impact on the world, not just building businesses, but empowering others and making a real difference.
Right, it's about leaving the world better than you found it. And I think networking has a huge role to play in that.
Absolutely. The connections we make, the support we offer, it all adds up to something bigger than ourselves.
This has been such an insightful conversation. What's resonating with you the most?
I'm really struck by how much the speaker emphasizes being intentional. It's not about mindlessly collecting contacts. It's about being thoughtful, prioritizing those relationships that really matter, and genuinely wanting to contribute to others' well-being.
Totally. It's about showing up authentically and wanting to build real connections, which I think is a perfect segue to the last part of our deep dive, where we'll hear some of the speaker's personal stories and reflections on the power of networking.
Those are going to be so interesting to hear.
Welcome back. We've been exploring this awesome framework for networking, but now let's get a little more personal.
Yeah, the speaker actually shares some really insightful and even funny stories that bring these ideas to life.
For example, they're really open about their own personal growth. Like, they talk about how they used to struggle with self-doubt, especially around people they saw as more successful or wealthy.
Yeah, they actually use the words ugly and poor to describe how they saw themselves at one point, which is pretty surprising, considering how successful they are now.
It just goes to show that you don't have to be perfect to build a strong network and achieve your goals.
Well, it's more about the journey and embracing the imperfections along the way.
And speaking of imperfections, they tell this funny story about how they actually had to, ask a friend to help them approach their wife because they were too nervous to do it themselves.
Oh, yeah, that one. It's so funny. It just shows that even the most successful people have insecurities and moments of self-doubt.
Totally. We're all human, right? So it's about not letting those things hold you back.
Absolutely. And, the fact that the speaker is so willing to be vulnerable and share these personal stories makes them, more relatable. It shows that success isn't about being perfect.
Right. It's about learning and growing along the way. And speaking of growth, the speaker also talks about how their network actually introduced them to new passions, like they started snowboarding because of people they met.
Oh, yeah, that's a great example of how expanding your network can lead to, like, unexpected personal growth.
Totally. It's like being open to trying new things and letting your connections broaden your horizons.
Exactly. And the speaker just seems to have this adventurous spirit when it comes to networking. They talk about connecting with people in the most random places, like on airplanes, in restaurants, even while fishing.
It's like they're always on the lookout for new connections. Which reminds me, they also talk a lot about the importance of following up, nurturing those connections over time.
Yeah, it's not enough to just, like, exchange business cards and then forget about it. You got to put in the effort to stay in touch and build those relationships.
They suggest things like sending handwritten notes, making phone calls, even scheduling regular coffee dates.
Yeah, it's about staying top of mind. But, I can see how that might seem time-consuming to some people.
Well, the speaker argues it's an investment worth making. They believe the stronger your relationships are, the more support you'll have.
Right, and the more opportunities will come your way.
Now, I want to go back to the idea of legacy for a second, something we talked about earlier. The speaker really wants to make a positive impact on the world, and they see networking as a key part of that.
It's not just about personal gain, right? It's about using your connections to create something bigger, something that benefits others.
They give an example of connecting people in their network who then went on to build successful businesses and make a real difference in their communities.
Right, it's about being a connector, a facilitator of positive change.
I love that. This whole deep dive has been so insightful. It's clear that mindset plays a huge role in networking.
Totally. The speaker talks about overcoming their own self-doubt by focusing on growth, recognizing their own unique value, and approaching everything with a spirit of giving.
It's about having that abundance mindset, believing in yourself, and the power of connections.
And it's about playing the long game, knowing that building a strong network takes time and effort.
Be patient, be persistent, and trust the process.
This has been such an amazing conversation about networking. It goes so much deeper than just tactics and strategies. It's about realizing how much genuine connections can enrich our lives and help us make a real difference.
It's about shifting from competition to collaboration, from selfishness to service, from a transactional mindset to one of genuine human connection.
I think when we approach networking that way, with authenticity and a desire to contribute, we unlock so many amazing possibilities.
Beautifully said. So listeners, as you go out there and connect, remember to be intentional, be authentic, be generous, and never underestimate the impact you can have on others.
And that's a wrap for this deep dive into networking. We hope you got some valuable insights and are feeling inspired to build those meaningful connections and make a positive impact on the world.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep connecting.